He's the ghostest with the mostest. This is your look at the Toony Terrors Beetlejuice. Bring the fun of Saturday morning cartoons to your horror collection with these adorable little creeps. Pick your favorites or collect them all and make every day Toony Terror time. Before we get a closer look at Beetlejuice, the first thing we're going to want to do is figure out how tall the figure stands. So I'm going to take it right to the very top of his head. Let's stop it right there. I'd like to thank as well the folks who are at NECA Toys that provided the sample of Beetlejuice that we're having a look at in this review. Toony Terrors Beetlejuice currently is available online in various retail stores as well. The figure stands 6.2 inches in height. Quickly switching that to centimeters, revealing that Toony Terrors Beetlejuice is 15.5 centimeters tall. So how big is Beetlejuice? Well, let's do some size comparisons, bring in the other figures that we had to look at from this wave. First was Hatchet's Victor Crowley. Well, admittingly, yes, is still the tallest of the batch. We also just recently had a look at the Exorcist Reagan. Yeah, I'm still having some difficulty with this 1 foot, this one right here. I feel like it's not quite leveled flat. And in the last review, we also had a look at the Toony Terrors Trick or Treat Sam. Look at all these characters and really think of the fact that they're all from movies stretching across several decades. When you think of, say, the likes of Exorcist and Beetlejuice, and then newer released characters and creatures like Victor Crowley, it's incredible the fact that NECA Toys has given us all of these Toony Terrors stretched across so many different movies. Unfortunately for Beetlejuice, he doesn't come with any accessories. Aww. But, I mean, if you look at other examples in the past, there has been Toony Terrors that we have gotten that have come with squat in the way of accessories. I'm thinking of, like, Freddy Krueger, although he did come with technically a display stand. And the Nun Valak was another one. Didn't come with anything. And you look at the figure anyways. I mean, the way he's posed, the way he has flat hands, he really wouldn't have had the necessary means to hold accessories anyways. He's doing what he's supposed to be doing, entertaining all of us. And I like the way, at least, at the very least, they didn't give us accessories. They gave him a pretty good looking pose, a very Beetlejuice looking pose. With that being said, let's pick up the figure and get a closer look at him. Now, this figure really much reminds me of another time that NECA Toys had released a Beetlejuice, and that was back in the days of the Cult Classics. I should see if I can find that figure again. I really did still like that Beetlejuice, and I really like this Beetlejuice as well. Very much, again, looking like a cartoon rendition of everybody's favorite ghoulish ghost. Let's get a closer look at his face. Not only will I say that that's a good-looking Beetlejuice for, again, the type of style of figure that we're getting here, but I think that's a pretty good likeness, again, if you want to look at it as a cartoon, of Michael Keaton. Now, of course, he was the one that played Beetlejuice. We were supposed to get a second film Beetlejuice, but I guess that really isn't going to be happening now. I don't feel the movie really needs a sequel. I'm perfectly content with just the one. As for the figure itself, you can see all the noted calling cards that Beetlejuice would have, like his big zany hair, for example, spiking and sticking out everywhere. It's not quite green, it's not quite yellow, it's somewhere disturbingly right in the middle there. Kind of a sickly color, something that maybe Reagan would be a fan of. He does also have what I could probably best describe as all this mold all over his face, this moss. I could never really figure out what he had all over his face. It was just this messy green slime all over the place. He's got it on the sides of his face, down by his neck, and in the areas around his mouth as well. And that's been nicely done. I don't know if you can actually see it or not, but it almost looks like, when I'm looking at it really closely, like there's a little bit of texturing that's been added to the green. Could just be my eyes playing tricks on me and the fact that just the way the paint's been applied to it, but it almost kind of comes across a little bit like there's a little bit of texturing. I feel it's just probably the way it was painted on. I do like the coloring of this dark purple that they put for his eyes. Not nearly enough that it masks the eyes, so you still get those peepers peering back at you. I like the fact also that the eyeballs, or at least the pupils, are far enough lower on the eyes, so they're not straight looking forward. It's almost like the way that you've posed the figure, it's almost like he's looking down at the audience in front of him. I really like that. Of course, his noted calling card is also the fact he's got the striped jacket as well as the pants, and he's got that well painted here as well on the figure. Spinning it around so you can see all the details on it. The stripes, to the credit of NECA Toys, is really clean on this guy. Really happy with how that turned out. You can see even the blacks on the sleeves, for example. Black and white, when you put the two together, man, there could be some real problems where one bleeds onto the other, or maybe the white, for example, has little spots of black. But I mean, if you look at the paint job here, it's really good. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. Again, like I said, he's pretty much staction posed. You can pose the arms, for example, up at the shoulders. He does have technically posability in his hands, but it sort of locks in with the way you can display the figure. Yeah, I guess if you wanted to, you can bring his arms up too. And you can twist the hands around. And you can give him this gesture if you want to. But I don't feel like that doesn't look right. It doesn't really look right on the figure. So even though he does have posability, I'm probably more or less going to be keeping his arms down because I think it looks a little bit better on the figure. He's got one little button. Going back to, again, that paint job. While the stripes are pretty good, unfortunately, I guess one area, I'll have to point that out, is the fact there's a little bit of smudging. I don't know if it's actually just a smudging from somebody touching the figure, or if it's just the way that the paint is kind of just bled onto it. But I guess, yeah, there's a little bit going on here, just around this section. The rest of it's pretty good. The rest of it's pretty clean. But yeah, there's just this one little area here where, yeah, there's some additional paint that's been added. We get a little bit further down, he does have the boots that cover off the bottom cuffs of his pants. And the boots are nicely sculpted as well. The laces don't get any additional coloring. They're all sort of relegated to the coloring of the black. But I do like the way that the boots turned out. We can flip the figure upside down. There's what the under treads look like. And there is, as you can see, the little holes, the peg holes that would attach to a display stand. I do want to say, going back to a point I made, I think for the Victor Crowley review, is that none of these figures unfortunately possess display stands. I would really like to see these guys get display stands. And an idea that I had thought of is maybe just giving us like little square, simple retro TVs. Just a little square TV screen, little antennas. You can plop the figure on top of that. I think that would be a fun touch. It would be also a great way to kind of keep these figures consistent with one another, that they all have the same display stands. Maybe their noted names on the front of it. But again, like I've said, they don't come with anything like that. Just a little side idea that I had. As for the figure's articulation, let's go ahead and go through that right now. The head rotates all the way around. Ooh, ah, oh. When you are rotating the head, you can't help, of course, put your fingers against the hair. And they are a little on the prickly side. Not to the point where it's going to draw blood, but you certainly feel it, that's for sure, when you're rotating his head back and forth. It is on a ball joint, so you can move the head up, you can move the head down, you can rock it back and forth. Ouch, 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 ouch. And like we were talking about before, he does have the swivel in his arms, so you can rotate those arms back and forth. I guess you could have him back a little bit as well if you want to, but it seems like the natural way that he comes out of the packaging is probably the best way that you'd want to display the figure. But just for the record, just for the sake of argument, you can rotate the arms all the way around. He does have a swivel back and forth on the hands. No articulation, simply just because his jacket overlaps the leg area there. And he does have articulation in the boots. I find the articulation in the boots definitely come in handy, because you do twist it. If you get him just in the right place, it certainly helps get the figure to stand up. Because his arms are sticking out the way that they are, sometimes it does cause some issues with the figure wobbling, where he doesn't seem to stay completely straight. What I would advise then is just going back to the figure and just adjusting the boots back and forth until you get that desired look, until you get that desired stance, and until you get Beetlejuice from not falling over on you. You know, I could picture Scooby-Doo and the rest of the gang meeting up with Beetlejuice, although I think it would be one of those cases where you'd want to have it as a direct-to-DVD movie, like Scooby-Doo meets Beetlejuice. I wouldn't want to be putting their interaction, their first-time encounter on an episode of Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Because, you know, half the time, that ghost or ghoul that Scooby's dealing with usually just ends up being a human that's dressing up as a monster. Mr. Jenkins, the groundskeeper, wants to scare away tourists, you know, that kind of thing. But I can imagine the interaction between the two. It probably would have some scene where Scooby and Shaggy are making a snack. Beetlejuice pops up out of nowhere and suggests putting beetles in the sandwiches. Boy, this thing writes itself. I'm really happy with how this one turned out from NECA Toys. Yes, admittingly, it doesn't have any accessories, but not all the Toony Terrors have to have necessarily accessories. If you're going to get a Jason or Leatherface, then yes, absolutely, throw in a weapon that they can wield. But Beetlejuice doesn't need that. He's got a pose down, and I think the pose they give him work rather well. I decided to bring the arms up a little bit. That's probably as high as the arms are probably going to go, because I think anything after that point looks a little off. Looks a little off. Speaking a little off in a good way, I like the sculpting of his face. Not quite there. It's a little off in the sense that he's got moss and stuff all over his face like he is in the movie, so, I mean, it's accurate in that sense. The striping on both his jacket and his pants work well. For the most part, it's pretty clean too. Like black and white stripes can be pretty problematic when it comes to painting it. There are, yes, a few little areas on the front of the jacket that are slightly smudged, where a little bit of that black has made its way onto the white. But overall, the paint is pretty clean on the sleeves, the legs, and even like the boots are all very nicely painted. I'm really happy with how this one turned out. I'm trying to even think if they could do another Beetlejuice. Maybe the one with the giant mallet and the merry-go-round head. That would be fun. That would be fun. But definitely in the meantime, I'm really enjoying the fact that we're getting more Toony terrors. Beetlejuice works really well with all the other ones that we've had a look at, and I all like them for different reasons. I like the Beetlejuice for a different reason than I like Victor Crowley, for example. But I think all work really well, and certainly on board. NECA Toys wants to continue to put out Toony terrors. I'm going to be one to keep collecting them. A big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys that provide the sample of Beetlejuice that we had a look at in this review. What do you guys think of him? Let me know down below in the comments section whether you've picked up the Toony Terrors Beetlejuice for yourself or based on this review, and this review alone. Also, as the video question for today, we're going to go off a little course here. What's your favorite Michael Keaton movie? I always like reading your comments down below. Also, if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Make sure, of course, you turn on that bell notification, all the necessary things that you need to do to be in the 411 of when new videos are popping up on this channel. Even though technically we are wrapping things up, closing up shop on Toony Terrors, there's going to definitely still be a ton of NECA reviews lined up and coming your way. So as always, keep those peepers ever so peeled for the new content coming up and popping up on this channel. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.